I worked in an archive for a little over a year, and I learned a ton about the field itself, but I also learned a ton of insight into its role in art. There's the obvious of being aware of best practices for your paintings in medium and what temperatures to avoid storing your art at. And there's a ton of super interesting science behind it, but what I feel like I took away most from my time in the archives was my practice of organizing and actively saving my work. There's so much art of mine that I've either lost to time, me moving, or just simply losing it. And artists can be so painfully unorganized because they just get pulled into so many different directions and passions. And while I was working at the archives, there was one project that I was processing, and we ran into film negatives and prints that were just horribly organized. They were loose, completely loose negatives and prints in banker's boxes. And it was all super cool shit that was just getting lost and damaged little by little over time. And I do think that that's an extreme example, and I don't think that it was handled by a passionate photographer at the time, that it was just thrown haphazardly into a box. But it really nailed into my brain the importance of treating my own shit like I would the archival material that I was handling every day. I mean, I'm not gonna like wear gloves or like lay everything flat or, refrain from flash photography, but I will work with that in mind, that there's a possibility that in 50 years, a tired and probably underpaid archivist will have to go through my shit, and I want to make it as easy as possible for them. But it's also for my own sake. I feel that kind of a respect for my own physical work somehow transfers over to my subconscious, and I'll just feel more confident in my own skills. I also think dating and putting your name on stuff as often as you can remember is a great habit to get into. But none of this means that I always practice this. I don't. I want to get better at it. But going back to the science, I think it's equally as important to understand the science of pigments and deterioration of whatever medium you're using. So I'm kind of starting to transfer over from using cheap student grade mediums where longevity is the least of your concerns into mediums that are more expensive and last longer. I'm not quite fully there yet. I'm still pretty broke, but it's definitely getting into my brain that my work isn't going to look the same in 10 years. Because now I'm starting to have art that's about 10 years old. And one solution that I have thought of is to start taking better pictures of your art, which is great because then you'll be more likely to post it online and you start to get out there. But it's also important, I think, to keep it in a drive somewhere. Best archival practices would have you like keeping it in multiple locations, multiple different external drives and clouds. But I can't say that I always adhere to that either, though. But I have felt the pains of not cataloging and backing up my art. I'll want to have a picture of my art from a couple years back without having to tear through my old portfolios and struggle so hard to find it, and it just feels so unnecessary if I had just put the time in the past. But looping back, take pictures, responsibly store them, and then another solution is how and where you're storing them. I keep most of my larger art pieces in two portfolios that are in a dry and mostly temperature regulated place. But they are stored up and down, which isn't the best, because the best is laying flat. But once again, I'm not perfect. But another solution is the surface of your work and what you are doing to prime it. I used to not care about gesso and priming canvases, mostly in high school, but if you're oil painting and the paint like seeps through into the canvas, it can seriously fuck up the canvas without the multiple layers of gesso. And I think that more expensive mediums or paints is the very last thing that you focus on when you're wanting your art to last long. After you've done all this stuff previously to protect your work, the expensive paints are like a thing at the end, like a nice to have. I think that looking through an artist's work at an archive is a great experience for any artist. Like, not only do you get to be hands-on and super close to their art, but it also puts into perspective what your own legacy might look like and what you want that to look like. Not saying that, like, I think my own work is going to be in an archive one day. It's possible, but I realize that that is most likely not going to be a thing, but it's just something that I had never thought of before I started working at an archive. So, real quick about the painting that I'm working on here. I'm using a screen cap from Severance, and I guess I won't give that much context into this scene since that would be major spoilers, but I was drawn to this scene in particular because of the expression that Mark has, and also there's like really interesting lighting coming in from a sunrise from a window. And in this one I was pushing myself to further stylize his face but keep the expression true to the reference and his likeness as well. I struggled a ton with his hand. I have a lot of practice like drawing hands, but little to no practice painting them because it's just been pretty daunting. And some things transfer over from drawing hands, but not enough has transferred over for the hands to look good enough, at least for me. But one thing is, though, that I did feel that I finished this one a lot faster than my previous painting, so that's definitely promising. If you want to see a still of this painting, you can check out my Instagram. The handle is up on the screen. I have more videos coming out soon, and stick around for that if you'd like to. Thank you for visiting my channel.